I think that's how I want to start it. Hey there, writers. We are back on YouTube with some book reviews. I should call them some salty reviews because I don't have a lot of highly rated ones to show you just yet. But we are going to review today the book Ugly by Margaret McHeyzer. And I should disclaim that my review is going to go a little bit against the grain of the general consensus. The book is rated on Amazon 4.5 stars and on Goodreads at 4.1 stars. I unfortunately did not enjoy the book quite as much as it seems a lot of other people did. My rating for this book, Ugly by Margaret McHeyzer, again, 1 out of 5 stars. So, Ugly is the story of an abuse survivor, both child and domestic, and features Lily, our protagonist. And my main issue with the book is not the story itself. I think that the story itself is beautiful. I think the story itself does need to be written more, does need to be read more. I think that it would benefit audiences. There is a bit of a debate about how young that audience should be, but I do think it would benefit audiences to know stories like this of survivors. There is actually another book that I'll be reviewing, Living Dead Girl, that touches on some similar really serious themes. Ugly, unfortunately for me, just missed the mark in the style of writing and the way they presented the story. So we open with Lily in high school. She is very violently abused by her father, both emotionally and physically. Her mother, unfortunately, died at her own hands. Not Lily's, mom's own hands. And she is left alone with her father, who is continuously bashing her with how ugly she is, how stupid she is, how she's never going to amount to anything, how she'd better hope that she finds a husband, and just that kind of thing, just mentally beating her down until she believes the things that he's saying to her, which of course happens, which is why the story needs to be written. That kind of emotional abuse is just as detrimental, if not as obvious, as physical abuse in these situations. Speaking of, he does physically abuse her pretty violently. There is a lot of descriptiveness in how he abuses her in the book. It is not a book for the faint of heart. If you are not very good with gore in your books or very descriptive violence, I would hesitate to recommend this book to you. So the issues that I had with the book is there is a very large divide between what we are told by the narrator and by Lily versus what we are actually shown as far as the book itself goes. What I mean by that is we are told that her father constantly calls her ugly, calls her stupid, over and over again. We are a little bashed over the head with it, which is understandable because Lily is bashed over the head with it, figuratively and on. So it does make sense for why this theme is so prevalent in the first part of the book when Lily is with her father. Unfortunately, it sort of trips over itself because the book goes out of its way to tell you that Lily thinks she is stupid, that her father thinks she is stupid, that she is invisible in school because she's ugly and stupid and nobody notices her, and that is how her father gets away with this abuse for so long. And then it seems rather suddenly her high school career is reaching its end and she is valedictorian of the class. And at that point, you as the reader, or at least me as the reader, start to wonder, if she is the smartest person in school, how did she manage to be so invisible? You wonder why a counselor hasn't reached out to her, why she's never met with anybody about her college choices, about what her plans for the future are, about how being a valedictorian is, good for the school and good for her, and how she needs to go somewhere good. School's funding is based on, the performance of their students. And a lot of counselors are kind of, up the butt of anybody who's good for their school. So then it's kind of like, okay, well, if a counselor, met with her along the way, did she have to actively hide the abuse, or did they just not notice that she, flinches whenever you move, or that she's, constantly injured, or, constantly coming to school with sunglasses to hide black eyes, and that sort of thing, where the book just kind of like doesn't really address it. And that's the issue I have. Like, I wouldn't mind if the book was like, oh, all the students ignored her because the teachers just, didn't really mention that she was the smartest kid in class, or they just didn't really care. Or, she just had to hide, even if it was just a passing sentence of she had to hide the abuse from the counselors, that would be fine. But the book just kind of acts like it never really happened. It was just kind of, it was a little cheap, in my opinion, that it was just kind of, Lily's invisible, so nobody really notices the abuse, so she can get over it. But she's also valedictorian, so yay! It just kind of felt like a lazy way to establish that, she's stupid, but she's valedictorian. And there's no meeting of that. It just suddenly happens. And it's that sort of suddenness that kind of bothers me throughout the book. We're told, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly, you're ugly. Starting to trip over my own words. And then when she's away from her father and with her, eventually abusive husband and working a job and things like that, all of a sudden all you really hear is, oh my God, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful, you're amazing. People that are in line at the grocery store just have to stop themselves and tell her how pretty she is. And again, you wonder, if she's this drop dead gorgeous, why did nobody ever notice her? And it just comes back to a lot of inexplicable things. So that was one problem that I had with the book that was never really resolved, because nothing was ever really addressed. You're presented facts, and then you're presented different facts. And I get what the author was trying to do with the juxtaposition of her being told that she's ugly and stupid, but her not actually being ugly and stupid. I just feel like the way that it was done was sort of, again, a little cheap and a little lazy, because there was no buildup. It was just, surprise, she's not stupid, she's valedictorian, and surprise, she's not ugly, everybody thinks she's amazingly beautiful. So that was really my only big issue with the book, was the writing itself. There is in the book a little bit later, once she eventually breaks free from the cycle of abuse, towards the very, very, very end of the book, we get a lot of the book is her being abused. And I get that that's the journey that the author was trying to show, but I will hesitatingly say that it did draw very close to trauma porn for me, where there was a lot of emphasis placed on the gore of the story and not a whole lot of emphasis placed on the journey of the story. It was sort of, here's the abuse, here's the abuse, here's more abuse, here's more abuse, here's more abuse. And now she's out of the abuse. There wasn't really a journey along the way at all. And on that note, one more thing that bothered me was her breaking free of the abuse was a lot in part to the new romantic interest, the one who will heal her from the abuse. And I didn't particularly care for that, just because these sort of stories, I think if for the audience that they're intended for, you should not base your recovery or base your character's recovery on another person. That it seems like an unhealthy message to send for anybody who may be in this sort of situation. Because if you're in this situation and you don't get a white knight, are you just supposed to stay in this situation? Or, we need messages that are, you can learn to be strong enough on your own, and you can learn to fight this on your own. It won't be easy, but you are capable of it, rather than, oh, here's a white knight that's going to rescue me out of my bad situation. Overall, 1 star out of 5. I did not particularly care for the way the book was written. I did not particularly care for the message of the book. I don't want to denigrate how important these kind of stories are. Stories from survivors are incredibly important. I think that there are a lot of people out there that are in abusive situations that might pick up a book like this and might find the strength to realize that they are in an unhealthy situation, and that is why we need books. That's why we need books, and why we need books like this. So I would always encourage somebody with the right amount of research and with the right editor and the right eyes on your story, if this is a story you want to write, go for it. Please use your words to try to help other people. I think that's a great mission and a great goal for authors. So that is all for Ugly by Margaret McHeyzer. Yes, I think I'm saying it right. And I will get back with you guys next week, and we will do another review. So, later, writers.